Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Earth-ship Defiant. The stars outside looked cold and empty. He had been patrolling this part of space for 3 months now. Nothing exciting ever happened out here. Just empty space and dead rocks floating around. His job was simple: watch for trouble, report anything strange, keep the peace in this forgotten corner of the galaxy. Most days, Jake wished something would happen, anything to break the endless routine of scanning empty space. Amy Rodriguez sat at the communications desk. She was young, maybe 25, with bright eyes that still held excitement for space travel. Jake remembered feeling that way once, before years of patrol duty had worn him down. "Sir, I'm getting something weird," Amy said. She turned in her chair to face Jake. "There's a signal coming from the Zerion system." Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of signal?" "It's weak. Really weak. Like whoever sent it doesn't have much power left." Amy's fingers danced over her controls. "The language is strange, too. Computer is having trouble with it." Jake frowned. The Zerion system was supposed to be empty. Nothing lived there anymore. The Galactic Council had told everyone that 3 years ago. A whole species called the Volani had been wiped out by the Korthak Empire. Complete genocide. Nothing left but dead worlds and broken dreams. "Keep working on it," Jake said. "Let me know when you have something clear." Amy nodded and turned back to her work. Jake returned to his captain's chair. He had a bad feeling about this. Signals from dead systems usually meant trouble. Pirates sometimes hid in places like that. Or worse. 20 minutes later, Amy called out again. "Got it, sir. The computer finally cracked their language." Put it on speaker. The bridge filled with a strange musical voice. It sounded tired and desperate. The words came through the ship's translator in flat, mechanical tones that couldn't hide the pain behind them. "This is Elder Jaraka of the Volani survivors. We know the galaxy thinks we are all dead. We have been hiding for 3 years now. We are running out of food, running out of hope. We need help. Anyone who can hear this, please. We are not asking for much. Just a place to live, a chance to rebuild. We have children here. They are dying." The message repeated twice more, then cut off. The bridge fell silent. Jake stared at the speaker like it might start talking again. Amy turned in her chair, her face pale. "Sir, the Volani are supposed to be extinct." "I know." Jake's mind raced. This changed everything. If there were Volani survivors, why hadn't anyone helped them? Why were they hiding? And why hadn't the Galactic Council told anyone they were still alive? The bridge door opened. Captain Lisa Hayes walked in. She was a tough woman in her 40s, with gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that had seen too much war. Jake respected her more than anyone else in the fleet. "What's the situation, Morrison?" she asked. "We received a distress call from Volani survivors in the Zerion system." Hayes stopped walking. Her face went blank for a moment. Then she shook her head. "That's impossible. The Volani are dead." "That's what I thought, too." Jake played the message again. Hayes listened without moving. When it finished, she was quiet for a long time. "How many survivors?" she finally asked. Amy checked her readings. "Hard to tell from here. The signal suggests several thousand, maybe more." Hayes walked to the main view screen. She stared out at the stars for a full minute. Jake knew that look. She was thinking about regulations, about orders, about what Earth Command would want them to do. "Set course for the Zerion system," Hayes said at last. "Full speed." Jake felt relief flood through him. "Yes, ma'am." As the Defiant turned toward the Zerion system, Jake thought about what they might find there. Thousands of beings who had been left to die, who had been forgotten by the galaxy, who had survived 3 years on their own with no help from anyone. The trip took 2 days. During that time, Jake couldn't stop thinking about the message. The voice had sounded so tired, so hopeless. How long had they been sending out calls for help? How many ships had passed by without stopping? When they reached the Zarion system, Amy's scans found them quickly. Hidden in a massive asteroid field were ships, lots of ships. They were strange-looking, made of some kind of crystal that seemed to glow with its own light. There, Amy pointed at her screen. 67 ships. Some are big enough to hold thousands of people. Jake looked at the readings. The ships showed signs of damage. Old damage that had been patched and repatched over years of use. These people had been running for a long time. Hayes opened communications. "This is Captain Lisa Hayes of the Earth vessel Defiant. We received your distress call." The response came quickly. The same musical voice from the message, but now full of surprise and hope. "Earthship? You came? We sent so many messages. So many calls for help. No one ever answered." "We're answering now," Hayes said. "Can we talk face to face?" "Yes, please. Come to the large ship in the center. We will open our docking bay." The Volani ship was beautiful. Even damaged and worn, it looked like art. Crystal walls curved in impossible shapes. Light flowed through them like water. Jake had never seen anything like it. Elder Jarrah met them at the airlock. Jake had studied Volani physiology and training, but seeing one in person was different. The being was tall and thin, made of living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. When it moved, musical tones came from somewhere inside its body. "Welcome," Jarrah said. The voice came from the crystal itself, not from any mouth. "I am sorry you must see us like this. We were once beautiful. Now we are just broken survivors." Jake thought they were still beautiful. Sad, maybe. Tired, definitely. But beautiful. Jarrah led them through the ship. Jake saw Volani families huddled in makeshift shelters. Children with dim crystal bodies that should have been bright with health. Adults whose light flickered like dying candles. "How many of you are there?" Hayes asked. 8,412, Jarrah said immediately. "I know each name, each face. We are all that remains of a species that once numbered in the billions." They reached a large room where dozens of Volani had gathered. They all looked at the humans with hope and fear mixed together. Jake realized these beings had been disappointed before, probably many times. "What happened to your world?" Jake asked. Jarrah's light dimmed. "The Korthak Empire wanted our planet, not for the land, for what lay beneath it. Crystals that could power their war machines for 1,000 years. They told the Galactic Council we were dangerous, that we threatened peace. The Council believed them, or pretended to believe them. What did the Council do? They withdrew all protection from our world, declared us outside galactic law. When the Korthak came with their warships, no one tried to stop them. They killed billions. We few escaped in whatever ships we could find." Hayes looked angry. "The Council told everyone you were extinct." "Easier than admitting they let it happen," Jarrah said bitterly. "We have been hiding ever since, moving from place to place, always running, always afraid." Jake felt something burning in his chest. Anger, maybe. Or disgust. How could the galaxy just let this happen? How could they sit by and watch an entire species get wiped out for money? "Why did you contact us?" Hayes asked. "Why Earth?" Jarrah's light brightened a little. "We heard stories. Stories about humans who help others, who fight for what is, right even when it costs them. We hoped maybe the stories were true." Jake looked at Hayes. He could see her thinking, calculating, trying to figure out what Earth Command would say, what the regulations allowed, what the consequences might be. "We need to report this to our superiors," Hayes said, finally. Jarrah nodded sadly. "We understand. We have waited 3 years. We can wait a little longer." As they walked back to their ship, Jake couldn't stop thinking about the Volani children. Their light was so dim. How long before it went out completely? How? Long before 8,000 became 7,000, then 6,000, then none? On the bridge of the Defiant, Hayes composed her report to Earth Command. Jake watched her type, knowing that every word mattered. The Villani's future hung on what she said and how she said it. When she finished, Hayes looked at the message for a long time before sending it. Jake knew what she was thinking. They both knew what the answer would probably be. Earth couldn't afford to anger the Galactic Council, not over a species everyone thought was already dead. But as Jake looked out at the crystal ships floating in the asteroid field, he made a decision. Whatever Earth Command said, whatever the regulations required, he wasn't going to let these people die. Not if he could help it. The galaxy had turned its back on the Villani once already. Jake Morrison wasn't going to let it happen again. The answer from Earth Command came 3 days later. Jake Morrison read it twice, hoping he had misunderstood something. But the words were clear enough. Observe and report only. Do not engage. Do not interfere. Return to patrol duties immediately. Captain. Hayes crumpled the message in her hand. Damn bureaucrats, she muttered. They're more worried about politics than people. Jake stared out at the Villani ships. In the past 3 days, he had visited them several times. Each visit made him angrier. These weren't dangerous criminals or enemy soldiers. They were families, scientists, teachers, artists, people who just wanted to live in peace. We have to tell them, Hayes said quietly. Jake nodded. He dreaded this conversation. Jaraka had been so hopeful when they first arrived. The Elder had actually started to glow brighter, like their inner light was returning. Now Jake had to crush that hope. They found Jaraka in the ship's main garden. It was a sad place now. Dying crystal trees that once sang with life now barely whispered. Villani children sat quietly beneath them, their light so dim Jake could barely see it. Captain Hayes. Commander Morrison, Jaraka greeted them. Do you have news from your leaders? Hayes pulled out the crumpled message. I'm sorry. Earth Command says we can't help you. They want us to leave immediately. Jaraka's light flickered and dimmed. For a moment, the Elder said nothing. Then, softly, we understand. You tried. That is more than anyone else has done. Jake felt something snap inside him. No, it's not enough. This is wrong. Morrison, Hayes warned. It's wrong, Captain. You know it's wrong. They're going to die out here, all of them. The children, too. Jake pointed at a young Villani who couldn't have been more than 6 years old. The child's crystal body was barely glowing. Look at her! Really look at her! How can we just walk away? Hayes was quiet for a long moment. Jake knew she was fighting. The same battle he was. Orders versus conscience. Rules versus what was right. What would you have us do? She asked finally. Disobey direct orders? Start a war with the Galactic Council? If that's what it takes. Jaraka raised a crystal hand. Please, do not fight because of us. We have caused enough trouble already. You haven't caused any trouble, Jake said firmly. The trouble started when the galaxy decided your lives didn't matter. Jake turned to Hayes. Captain, request permission to speak freely. Hayes sighed. Granted. 3 years ago, the Korthak Empire committed genocide. The Galactic Council let it happen. Now they want us to pretend these survivors don't exist. They want us to be part of the cover-up. Jake's voice got louder. How is that different from murder? If we leave now, we're killing them just as much as if we fired on their ships ourselves. Hayes looked around the garden, at the dying trees, at the dim children, at the adults who had given up hope so many times they barely knew how to feel it anymore. What are you suggesting? She asked. We help them, whatever it takes. That could mean the end of our careers. Court-martial, prison time. Jake shrugged. Some things are more important than careers. Hayes was quiet for several minutes. Jake could see her thinking. weighing options, calculating risks. Finally, she looked up at Jaraka. "Elder, if we were to help you, what would you need?" Jaraka's light fluttered with surprise. "You would risk so much for us? Why?" "Because it's right," Hayes said simply. Jaraka's glow grew brighter. For the first time since Jake had met the Elder, there was real hope in that light. "We need food, medical supplies, spare parts for our ships, but most of all, we need a safe place to live. Somewhere the Korthak can't find us." Jake nodded. "We can get supplies. As for a safe place..." He thought about it. "There are uninhabited systems in human space, worlds we haven't colonized yet." "Your government would allow this?" Hayes smiled grimly. "We'll ask for forgiveness instead of permission." Over the next 2 days, Hayes sent coded messages to other Earth ships in the sector. She was careful. Too direct, and Earth Command would stop them before they could help anyone. Too vague, and no one would understand what they needed. The first ship to respond was the cargo vessel Liberty Bell, commanded by Captain Ron Parker. Parker was an old friend of Hayes, a man who had grown up on the rough frontier worlds where helping your neighbor wasn't just nice, it was necessary for survival. "Lisa, you sure about this?" Parker asked over the private comm channel. "This could get us all in serious trouble." "I'm sure," Hayes replied. "These people need help. Real help, not politics or paperwork." Parker was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed. "Hell, I've been hauling spare parts and food supplies for months. Never did like those Korthak bastards anyway. I'm in." The second ship was the science vessel Explorer, under Dr. Paul Carter. Carter was Earth's leading expert on alien biology. When he heard about the Volani survivors, he immediately volunteered his services. "My God," Carter said when he first saw the refugee ships. "I thought they were all dead. The scientific community mourned them for years. They were brilliant. Their bioengineering technology was centuries ahead of ours." Jake watched Carter examine a sick Volani child. The doctor's hands were gentle as he ran his scanner over the dimming crystal body. "Can you help them?" Jake asked. "I think so. Their physiology is fascinating. They're not exactly alive in the way we understand it, but they're not machines either. There's something in between. Their crystal bodies need specific minerals to maintain their structure. Without those minerals, they slowly fade away." Carter's eyes lit up with excitement. "But here's the interesting part. The minerals they need are common, easy to synthesize. We could have them healthy again in weeks." The third ship to arrive was the destroyer Vigilant, commanded by Major Steve Collins. Collins was a career military man, tough as nails and absolutely loyal to his people. When he learned about the Volani situation, his reaction was swift and decisive. "This is genocide," he said bluntly. "I don't care what the politicians call it. I've seen enough war to know murder when I see it." He looked at the Volani ships. "Anyone who wants to hurt these people will have to go through me first." With 3 ships now committed to helping, Hayes called a meeting of all the Earth captains. They gathered aboard the Defiant to plan their next move. "First priority is medical care," Hayes said. "Dr. Carter, how long do you need to get them? Healthy? Give me 2 weeks and access to a proper lab. I can synthesize everything they need." "Good. Captain Parker, what about supplies?" Parker consulted his cargo manifest. "I've got enough food for several thousand people for about 6 months. Basic supplies, too. Tools, spare parts, that kind of thing." "Excellent. Major Collins, what about security?" Collins leaned back in his chair. "The Korthak will come looking eventually. When they do, we need to be ready. The Volani ships aren't armed. They're sitting ducks if anyone finds them." "So we protect them," Jake said. Collins nodded. "That's the plan. But we need more ships, more people. This is bigger than what 4 vessels can handle." Hayes agreed. Over the next week, she sent more coded messages. Word spread through the Earth fleet in whispers and private conversations. Many captains were sympathetic, but not all were willing to risk their careers. The ones who did come surprised everyone. Captain Beth Walsh brought the medical ship Mercy. Commander Dan Phillips arrived with the supply transport New Hope. Lieutenant Commander Tony Martinez showed up with the engineering vessel Builder. Within 2 weeks, 12 Earth ships had gathered in the Xerion system. It was the largest unauthorized fleet operation in Earth's history. If Earth Command found out, they would all face court-martial. But Jake didn't care anymore. Watching the Vallani children grow brighter and healthier every day was worth any risk. Seeing Hope return to Jaraka's crystal form made every regulation they were breaking seem unimportant. Dr. Carter's mineral synthesis was working perfectly. The Vallani were getting stronger. Their ships were being repaired. For the first time in 3 years, they were starting to believe they might actually survive. It was Jaraka who brought up the next problem. "You have given us life," the elder told Jake during one of their walks through the garden. The crystal trees were singing again now, soft melodies that filled the air with music. "But we cannot hide here forever. Eventually someone will find us." Jake knew the elder was right. They had been lucky so far, but luck never lasted forever. The Korthak Empire was still out there, still hunting, still wanting to finish what they had started. "What if we took you somewhere safe?" Jake suggested. "Somewhere in human space where the Korthak can't reach you." Jaraka's light pulsed thoughtfully. "Your people would do this? Give us a world of our own? If they won't, we'll find a way to make them." That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what they were doing, about the risks they were taking, about the consequences they would face when Earth Command inevitably found out. But then he thought about the Vallani children, bright and healthy now, playing games that filled the air with crystal music. He thought about Jaraka's growing hope, about a species that had been given a second chance at life. Whatever happened next, Jake knew they had done the right thing. The galaxy had turned its back on the Vallani once. Jake Morrison and his fellow humans had chosen to face them instead. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new dangers. But tonight, 8,000 Vallani were alive and healthy and hopeful. That was enough. The Korthak ships arrived without warning. Jake Morrison was having breakfast when Amy Rodriguez's voice echoed through the Defiance corridors. "All hands to battle stations. Enemy vessels approaching. This is not a drill." Jake dropped his coffee and ran to the bridge. Captain Hayes was already there, staring at the tactical display. 15 Korthak warships had just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. "How did they find us?" Jake asked. "Does it matter?" Hayes replied grimly. "They're here now." The Korthak ships were massive, dark metal vessels bristling with weapons. They moved in perfect formation toward the asteroid field where the Vallani refugees were hiding. Jake felt his stomach twist. 12 Earth ships against 15 Korthak warships. The odds were not good. Admiral Frank Nelson's voice came over the comm from his flagship, the Sovereign. Nelson was the highest-ranking Earth officer in the sector, a gray-haired veteran who had fought in more battles than Jake could count. "All captains, this is Admiral Nelson. Stand ready, but do not fire unless fired upon." Jake watched the tactical display as the Korthak fleet approached. They weren't trying to hide their intentions. Their weapons were charged and ready. Their formation was aggressive. They had come here to finish what they started 3 years ago. The lead Korthak ship opened communications. The alien commander's face appeared on the main screen. It was a typical Korthak, with thick gray skin, small black eyes, and rows of sharp teeth. When it spoke, its voice was cold and mechanical. "Human vessels, you are harboring Korthak property. Surrender the criminals immediately or face the consequences." Admiral Nelson responded calmly. "These beings have requested sanctuary under Earth protection. We are granting it." The Korthak commander's lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. "Earth has no authority in this system. The criminals belong to the Korthak Empire. They will be returned to face justice." Jake felt anger burning in his chest. Justice. As if genocide was justice. These people are refugees, Nelson said. They have committed no crimes. They exist, the Korthak replied. That is crime enough. The communication cut off. Jake stared at the empty screen in shock. They existed, and that was crime enough. How could any species think that way? How could they hate so much that simply being alive was considered criminal? Hayes turned to Jake. Get down to engineering. Tell Lieutenant Brooks to give us everything she's got. If we're going to fight, we'll need every advantage we can get. Jake found Katie Brooks deep in the engine room, her hands covered in grease as she worked on some kind of modification. Brooks was young but brilliant, one of the best engineers in the fleet. What are you working on? Jake asked. Brooks grinned. Something the Villani taught me. Their shield technology is incredible. I've been trying to adapt it to our systems. She gestured to a cluster of crystal formations she had somehow integrated into the ship's power grid. These crystals can absorb and redirect energy. If this works, we might actually have a chance. The ship shuddered as the first Korthak salvo hit their shields. Jake grabbed a support beam to steady himself. How long do you need? 5 minutes. Maybe 10. You've got it. Jake ran back to the bridge. The battle had begun in earnest now. Earth ships darted between the asteroids, using the rocks for cover. The Villani refugee ships were hidden deep in the field, protected by the largest asteroids they could find. The Korthak ships were powerful, but they were also large and slow. Earth vessels were smaller and more maneuverable. They could duck and weave between the asteroids where the bigger ships couldn't follow. Jake watched Captain Parker's Liberty Bell dart out from behind an asteroid, fire a spread of missiles at a Korthak destroyer, then disappear back into cover before the enemy could return fire. The missiles hit home, causing a satisfying explosion along the alien ship's hull. But the Korthak had advantages too. More ships, bigger guns, heavier armor. For every hit the Earth ship scored, they took 2 in return. The science vessel Explorer took a direct hit to its engines and began drifting helplessly. Dr. Carter's voice came over the comm, strained but determined. We're still alive over here, but we're not going anywhere fast. Major Collins maneuvered the Vigilant to protect the damaged ship. His destroyer's guns blazed as he held off 3 Korthak vessels single-handedly. Come on, you ugly bastards. Let's see what you've got. The Korthak response was immediate and brutal. They concentrated their fire on the Vigilant, hammering it with everything they had. Collins's ship shook under the assault, but held together. Shields at 30%, Collins reported. But we're still in the fight. Jake looked at the tactical display. They were holding their own, but barely. The Korthak were slowly pushing them back, forcing the Earth ships deeper into the asteroid field. Soon they would reach the refugee ships. When that happened, the battle would be over. Captain, Amy called out, I'm getting a signal from the Villani ships. Put it through. Jaraka's musical voice filled the bridge. Captain Hayes, we cannot let you die for us. We have weapons. Old weapons, but they still work. Let us help. Hayes shook her head. Negative, Elder. Keep your people safe. We can handle this. With respect, Captain, you cannot. But together, we might. Before Hayes could respond, the Villani ships began moving. They emerged from their hiding places among the asteroids, their crystal hulls glowing with inner light. Jake had never seen them in battle formation before. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The lead Villani ship opened fire. A beam of pure light shot out, striking a Korthak destroyer dead center. The alien ship's shields flared and collapsed. The beam cut through its hull like it was made of paper. My God, Jake whispered. More Villani ships fired. Their weapons were unlike anything Jake had ever seen. Instead of missiles or energy blasts, they fired concentrated light that seemed to ignore shields and armor entirely. Wherever the beams touched, Korthak ships simply came apart. The Korthak commander's voice crackled over the comm, no longer calm and controlled. Impossible. Those weapons were destroyed. We made sure they were destroyed. Jaraka responded, and for the first time since Jake had met the Elder, there was cold anger in that musical voice. You destroyed our world. You killed our children. But you did not destroy our memory. We rebuilt what you took from us. The tide of battle turned quickly after that. The Korthak ships were designed to fight conventional weapons. They had no defense against Volani light beams that cut through their hulls like knives through cloth. One by one, the alien warships fell. Some tried to retreat, but the Volani ships were faster now, powered by crystal technology that made them dance through space like living things. Jake watched in amazement as a Volani cruiser spun in a tight circle around a fleeing Korthak destroyer, its light beam carving the larger ship into pieces. It was like watching an artist work, if the artist happened to be a master of space warfare. In less than an hour, it was over. 15 Korthak warships had been reduced to debris floating among the asteroids. Not a single alien vessel escaped. Aftermath was strangely quiet. Jake stood on the bridge, hardly believing what had just happened. They had won. Against all odds, against superior numbers, they had actually won. But he knew this was just the beginning. News of this battle would spread quickly. The Galactic Council would demand explanations. Earth would face consequences for their actions. Admiral Nelson's voice came over the comm. All captains, prepare for emergency conference. We need to discuss our next move. They met aboard the Sovereign an hour later, the captains of all 12 Earth ships, plus Elder Jaraka representing the Volani. The meeting room was crowded, but no one complained. They had too much to discuss. First things first, Nelson said. Casualty report. The news was better than Jake had dared hope. The Explorer had taken damage, but no casualties. 2 other ships had minor injuries among their crews. Considering they had just fought a major space battle, they had gotten off incredibly lightly. The Korthak weren't so lucky, Major Collins reported. We're reading no survivors from their fleet, Nelson nodded grimly. That's going to cause problems. The Korthak Empire will demand revenge. The Galactic Council will want someone to blame. Let them, Captain Parker said angrily. The Korthak came here to commit genocide. We stopped them. I'm not going to apologize for that. Dr. Carter leaned forward. We need to think about the bigger picture here. What we just witnessed was incredible. Volani technology is centuries beyond anything the galaxy has seen. Those light beam weapons could change everything. Jaraka's crystal form pulsed softly. Our weapons are not toys to be played with. We built them to defend ourselves. Nothing more. I understand, Carter said. But others won't see it that way. When word gets out about what happened here, every power in the galaxy will want that. Technology. Jake saw the problem immediately. The Volani had just revealed that they possessed weapons far beyond anything the Galactic Council had. That made them valuable. And in a galaxy that valued profit over people, valuable things tended to disappear. We need to get them to safety, Jake said. Somewhere the Council can't reach them. Agreed, Nelson said. I'm thinking the Kepler system. It's in human space, uninhabited, and far from any major trade routes. Jaraka considered this. You would give us an entire star system? If that's what it takes to keep you safe. The Elder's light grew brighter. You continue to amaze us, Admiral. Yes, we accept. The message from Earth arrived exactly 3 weeks after the battle. Jake Morrison read it twice, then handed the datapad to Captain Hayes. Her face went pale as she scanned the official communication. Well, she said finally, it's official. We're all criminals now. The Galactic Council had voted unanimously to condemn Earth's actions. Economic sanctions were being imposed immediately. All Earth ships were banned from Council space. Human. Colonies outside Earth territory were given a choice: denounce the refugee operation or face complete isolation. Jake looked out at the Kepler system, where the Volani had begun building their new home. Crystal structures grew like living things on the surface of the second planet. Their ships moved in graceful formations, bringing supplies and equipment down from orbit. After 3 years of hiding and running, they were finally building something. Permanent. "What's Earth Command's response?" Jake asked. Hayes scrolled through the message. "Admiral Chen has been relieved of duty. General Martinez is the new fleet commander. All ships involved in the refugee operation are ordered to return to Earth immediately for disciplinary action. And if we refuse, court-martial in absentia, discharge from service, permanent exile from Earth space." Jake thought about that. Never seeing Earth again. Never going home. It should have bothered him more than it did. "What about the other captains?" Hayes checked her communications. "Parker says he's staying. Collins, too. Dr. Carter is refusing to abandon the Villani. Most of the others are staying as well." Jake wasn't surprised. These people had risked everything to save the Villani. They weren't going to abandon them now just because some politicians were angry. The door chimed. Amy Rodriguez entered, carrying another data pad. She looked excited about something. "Captain, you need to see this. We're getting messages from all over the galaxy." Hayes took the pad and read. Her eyebrows went up. "Jake, listen to this. This is from the Mari Consortium," she read aloud. "We have watched the human response to the Villani crisis with great interest. For too long, the Galactic Council has ignored the suffering of smaller species. We request permission to open diplomatic relations with Earth." Amy nodded eagerly. "That's not all. The Zenth Trade Union wants to establish shipping agreements with us. The Altair Republic is offering to share intelligence on Korthak military movements. Even some of the independent worlds are reaching out." Jake felt a smile growing on his face. "The Council's sanctions are backfiring. Looks like it," Hayes agreed. "Apparently, a lot of species are tired of Council politics. What we did with the Villani has given them hope that there might be another way. Over the next few days, more messages arrived. The pattern was always the same. Smaller species, independent worlds, anyone who had been ignored or mistreated by the Council was suddenly very interested in talking to Earth. Admiral Nelson called a meeting of all the ship captains. They gathered in the conference room aboard, the Sovereign to discuss their situation. "The political landscape has changed," Nelson began. "Earth is officially in disgrace with the Council, but unofficially, we're becoming the center of a new alliance." Major Collins leaned back in his chair. "An alliance of outcasts and rebels." "Exactly. The question is, what do we do about it?" Dr. Carter spoke up. "We can't just ignore this. Some of these species have technology that could benefit everyone. The Mari have developed new medical techniques. The Zenth have transportation systems we can barely understand. The Altair Republic has been fighting the Korthak Empire for decades," added Captain Parker. "They know things about Korthak tactics that could help us protect the Villani." Elder Jaraka, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke. "You saved our lives. Now you are being punished for it. Perhaps it is time for us to return the favor." "What do you mean?" Nelson asked. Jaraka's crystal form pulsed with soft light. "Our technology, our knowledge, we offer it freely to those who stand with us. Not just weapons, but everything. Medical technology, engineering, science, art. We share it all." Jake understood immediately. "You're talking about changing the balance of power in the galaxy. The Galactic Council maintains control through technology restrictions," Jaraka explained. "They allow only certain species access to advanced knowledge. Others are kept dependent and weak. But if we share our technology freely, that system breaks down." Dr. Carter's eyes lit up. "Brilliant. Instead of hoarding knowledge like the Council does, we make it available to everyone." "The Council won't like that," Captain Walsh pointed out. "Good," said Collins. "Let them be angry. Maybe it's time someone challenged their authority." Nelson thought for a moment. "We're talking about more than just helping refugees here. We're talking about revolution. A peaceful revolution, Jaraka said. One built on cooperation instead of domination, on sharing instead of hoarding, on helping instead of exploiting. Jake looked around the table. These people had already sacrificed their careers to save the Vallani. Now they were being asked to risk even more, to challenge the most powerful political organization in the galaxy. What would this new alliance look like? He asked. Nelson smiled. Free trade between all members, open sharing of technology and knowledge, mutual defense agreements, democratic, decision-making instead of council authoritarianism. Most importantly, added Jaraka, no species would be abandoned. No one would be left to face genocide alone. Over the following weeks, the alliance began to take shape. The Mari were the first to officially join, bringing their advanced medical technology. The Zenth followed with their trade networks. The Altair Republic provided military expertise and intelligence. Each new member brought something valuable to the group. The Kepler system became a hub of activity as species that had barely spoken to each other began working together. Jake watched Mari doctors treating Vallani patients, while Zenth engineers helped upgrade Earth ships with new technology. But the real breakthrough came when Lieutenant Commander Tony Martinez figured out how to combine technologies from different species. He took Vallani crystal power sources, Mari biocomputers, and Zenth transportation systems and somehow made them work together. It's like they were designed to complement each other, Martinez explained to Jake. Each species developed different strengths. When you combine them, the results are incredible. Jake saw the demonstration himself. A small Earth shuttle equipped with the hybrid technology could travel twice as fast as before, had shields that regenerated automatically, and could repair itself if damaged. It was like science fiction made real. The Galactic Council noticed the changes quickly. Trade ships reported seeing Earth vessels with impossible technology. Independent worlds began refusing Council trade agreements in favor of alliance deals. The careful balance of power that had kept the Council in control for centuries was starting to shift. The Council's response was predictable. They declared the new alliance a threat to galactic peace. They increased military patrols near alliance space. They pressured member species to cut all contact with the rebels. But it was too late. The alliance had momentum now. Every day brought new requests for membership. Every week saw new technology sharing agreements. The Council's threats only made more species want to join the group that wasn't afraid to stand up to bullies. Jake stood in the observation deck of the rebuilt Vallani, city on Kepler 2. The crystal buildings rose like living art from the planet's surface. Vallani children played in gardens that sang with harmonic frequencies. Adults worked alongside beings from a dozen different species, building something new and wonderful. Beautiful, isn't it? Jaraka joined him at the viewing port. The elders. Light was brighter now than Jake had ever seen it. Health and hope had restored the Vallani's natural glow. It's amazing, Jake agreed. A year ago, your people were dying in hiding. Now look at this place. We could not have done it alone. None of us could have. That is the lesson here. Together, we are stronger than any of us could be apart. Jake nodded. He thought about Earth, still technically under Council sanctions, but thriving with new trade partnerships. He thought about the Alliance fleet, now numbering over 100 ships from 20 different species. He thought about the technology. Sharing that was advancing every member civilization by decades. The Council is going to try to stop us, he said. Of course they will. Power does not give itself up easily, but they cannot stop an idea whose time has come. The galaxy is changing, Commander Morrison, and we are the ones changing it. A communication alert sounded. Jake checked his datapad and smiled. 3 more species had requested Alliance membership, including, surprisingly, 2 that were current Council members. Jaraka, I think you're right. The galaxy is changing. The Elder's crystal form hummed with satisfaction. Your species has a saying, does it not? About how the arc of history bends toward justice? Yeah, Martin Luther King said that. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Then perhaps it is time for us to help bend it a little faster. Jake looked out at the Alliance ships in orbit around Kepler-2. Earth vessels working alongside Mari Bio ships, Zenth traders, Altair warships, and dozens of others. A year ago, most of these species had barely known each other existed. Now they were family. The galaxy had turned its back on the Vel. 2 years after the battle at Zerion, Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Freedom's Light, watching the largest fleet ever assembled by free species move through space. Over 300 ships from 47 different worlds, all united, under the banner of the Free Alliance. The Galactic Council had finally decided to act. After months of watching their authority crumble as more species joined the Alliance, they had assembled their own fleet. Nearly 1,000 Council ships were moving toward the Kepler system, intent on crushing the rebellion once and for all. Admiral Morrison, Communications Officer Lieutenant Sarah Kim, called out. Jake still wasn't used to his new rank. The Alliance had promoted him after Admiral Nelson retired to focus on diplomatic work. The Council fleet has dropped out of hyperspace at the system edge. Jake nodded. They had known this day would come. The Council couldn't allow the Alliance to continue growing. Too many of their member species were defecting. Too many worlds were choosing freedom over control. How many ships? Jake asked. 963, sir. Mostly heavy cruisers and battleships. They mean business this time. Jake looked at the tactical display. The Council fleet was massive, but Jake wasn't worried. The Alliance had advantages the Council couldn't match. Better technology, better coordination, and most importantly, better reasons for fighting. Open a channel to all Alliance ships, Jake ordered. Channel open, sir. Jake took a deep breath. This is Admiral Morrison to all Alliance vessels. Today, we face the largest battle in galactic history. The Council comes here to destroy us, to break us, to force us back into submission. They think their numbers and their big ships will intimidate us. He paused, looking out at the Alliance fleet. They're wrong, he continued, his voice growing stronger. We're not fighting for territory or resources or political power. We're fighting for the right to choose our own destiny, for the right to help each other instead of exploiting each other, for the right to say that no species should ever again be abandoned to genocide while the galaxy looks the other way. The tactical display showed Alliance ships moving into formation. Earth vessels worked alongside Vellani crystal ships, Ma'ari, biocruisers, Zenth trade fighters converted for war, Altair destroyers, and dozens of other designs. It was chaos that somehow worked perfectly. The Council thinks they know how to fight us, Jake said. They expect us to use their tactics, their formations, their way of thinking. But we're something new. Something they've never faced before. We're not just an alliance of ships. We're a family. And nobody hurts our family. Elder Jaraka's voice came over the comm from the Vellani command ship. Admiral Morrison speaks truth. Today, we fight not just for ourselves, but for the idea that compassion is stronger than cruelty, that cooperation is better than domination, that love will always triumph over hate. The Council fleet began moving forward in perfect formation. 3 massive wedges of ships, each one larger than the entire Alliance fleet. Their advance was slow and methodical, designed to intimidate and overwhelm. Commander Beth Walsh, now Jake's tactical officer, studied her displays. They're using standard Council doctrine. Heavy ships in front to absorb damage, lighter vessels providing support. Very predictable. Good, Jake said. Predictable is what we want. Dr. Paul Carter, who had been working on Alliance technology integration, spoke up from his science station. All ships are reporting ready, Admiral. The new hybrid systems are operating at peak efficiency. Jake smiled. The hybrid technology had come a long way since Martinez first figured out how to combine different species innovations. Now every Alliance ship carried systems that blended the best of 47 different civilizations. Volani crystal power sources provided incredible energy. Mari biocomputers offered lightning-fast processing. Zenth dimensional drives allowed impossible maneuvers. Earth tactical systems coordinated it all. The result was a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Execute Pattern Delta," Jake ordered. The Alliance fleet suddenly scattered in all directions. Ships that had been flying in loose formation spread out across three-dimensional space like an expanding cloud. To the Council fleet, it must have looked like complete chaos, but there was method to the madness. Each Alliance ship knew exactly where to go, exactly what to do. They had practiced this maneuver hundreds of times. The Council ships, expecting a traditional formation battle, suddenly found themselves facing targets everywhere at once. The first Council salvo missed completely. Their heavy guns were designed to hit large formations of ships, not individual vessels dancing through space like leaves in the wind. The Alliance response was immediate and devastating. Volani light beams cut through Council shields like they weren't there. Mari bioweapons adapted to enemy defenses in real time. Zenth dimensional torpedoes appeared inside enemy ships without warning. Earth tactical systems coordinated the chaos into a symphony of destruction. Jake watched the battle unfold on his displays. It was unlike any space combat in galactic history. Instead of two fleets hammering each other with brute force, this was more like a swarm of angry bees attacking a lumbering giant. Council ships tried to turn and track individual Alliance vessels, but they were too slow. Their massive guns couldn't hit targets that moved like the Alliance ships did. Their formations, perfect for fighting other Council fleets, became liabilities when facing an enemy that refused to play by traditional rules. "Council flagship is hailing us," Lieutenant Kim reported. "Put them through." The main screen showed a Korthak general, his gray skin darker than usual with rage. "Human Admiral, you fight without honor. Your tactics are cowardly." Jake almost laughed. "Honor? You're lecturing me about honor? Your empire committed genocide against the Volani. Your council stood by and watched it happen. Don't talk to me about honor." The Volani were criminals. They deserved their fate. They were innocent people, families, children. And the only crime they committed was existing in a galaxy that your empire wanted to control. The Korthak general snarled. "You will all share their fate. The Council will not allow this rebellion to continue. Then the Council is going to be disappointed." Jake cut the communication and turned back to the battle. The Alliance was winning, but the Council still had numerical superiority. For every Council ship destroyed, they had two more to take its place. This couldn't be just about military victory. It had to be about changing minds. "Open a general broadcast," Jake ordered. "All frequencies. I want every ship in both fleets to hear this." "Channel open, sir." Jake took a deep breath. This was the most important speech of his life. "Attention all vessels, Council and Alliance alike. My name is Admiral Jake Morrison of Earth. 2 years ago, my ship found refugees hiding in an asteroid field, survivors of a genocide that the galaxy chose to ignore. We had a choice: follow orders and walk away, or do what was right and help them." He paused, watching the battle continue around him. Alliance ships darted between the larger Council vessels like minnows swimming around whales. We chose to help. For that choice, we were called criminals, rebels, threats to galactic peace. But I ask you, what kind of peace allows genocide? What kind of order is built on the suffering of the innocent? What kind of civilization turns its back on those who need help the most? Several Council ships had stopped firing. Jake could see them on the tactical display, just hanging in space as their crews listened. The Free Alliance isn't perfect. We make mistakes, we argue, we disagree. But we never abandon each other. We never let politics come before compassion. We never choose convenience over conscience. More Council ships were stopping. On some of them, Jake could see escape pods launching, crews refusing to fight for a cause they no longer believed in. To the Council crews out there, you don't have to be part of this. Your leaders brought you here to destroy something beautiful, something hopeful. But you can choose differently. You can choose to be part of building something better instead of protecting something broken. The tactical display showed dozens of council ships powering down their weapons. Others were launching escape pods by the hundreds. A few were even turning their guns on other council vessels. The Korthak flagship fired a massive barrage at the Freedom's light. The shots splashed harmlessly against the ship's adaptive shields, energy absorbed and redirected by Vellani crystal technology. Jake smiled. The old galaxy is dying, and the new one is being born. You can fight for the past, or you can help build the future. The choice is yours. By the end of the day, it was over. Not because one fleet had destroyed the other, but because the Council fleet had simply fallen apart. Hundreds of ships had defected to the Alliance. Others had fled back to Council space. Only the most loyal units, mostly Korthak vessels, continued fighting until they were destroyed. The galaxy had witnessed something unprecedented, an empire defeated not by superior force, but by superior ideals. In the weeks that followed, the collapse accelerated. Entire Council member species announced their withdrawal and requested Alliance membership. Independent worlds threw off Council control. Even some of the core Council worlds began experiencing internal rebellions. Jake stood in the observation lounge of the Freedom's Light, looking out at the Alliance celebration fleet. Ships from over 100 different species now flew together in peaceful formation. Beings who had been enemies for centuries.